What's going on, fellow reformers? It's the Reformation Keegan, and I'm here today to talk about Smallville. So, I recently finished all 10 seasons, and I thought the show was fantastic. It might be my favorite show I've ever watched. There was a lot of good in it. I know the criticisms that there have been for the shows, like the Clark, Lex, and Lana love triangle. Some of the stuff with season four with Jason and Lana's relationship. So there is some criticism to be warranted. However, when you have a show for 10 seasons, there are going to be some ups and downs. Even with one season, you're going to have ups and downs. So I believe that the good outweighs the bad with Smallville exponentially. And there was a lot of good moral dilemmas in the show that I think were presented through Clark, through Lex, through Lionel, through Chloe, through Lana, through Lois, through everybody. So there's a lot going on, and I was thinking about this because I know a lot of people love to compare and they love to make lists, and a lot of people are always asking, what is the best episode in Smallville history? The best is subjective. And it's really difficult to say what the best is of anything because it depends on what you're predicating it off of. So like, are we looking for overall quality? Are we looking for what we would call cinema today? Are we looking for high-end character work? Are we looking for episodes derived from personal enjoyment? Are we looking for consistency through sequence through episodes? Are we looking for what each season brings to the table? Are we juxtaposing it? Are we going to take each episode and compare them in terms of, overall comedy? Are we looking at it through a perspective of pathos for emotional effect? So there's a lot that goes on when you're trying to decipher what the best is pertaining to an episode. There are other great episodes in Smallville that I think get high-end acclaim. So like episodes such as Reckoning in season 5, Arctic, Justice, Commencement was another one, Rosetta with Christopher Reeve as Dr. Virgil Swan, Homecoming. There's so many. The pilot, obviously, the first. So it's hard to really assess what the best Smallville episode is, but I can tell you the one that I believe showed the most progression in Clark as a character. And that episode would be titled Ryan. So Ryan made two main appearances in Smallville, but they did not look back when doing these episodes because Ryan, we're still talking about to this day, and he was only in the episodes twice. So with only a couple of appearances, for him to have that much of an emotional effect can go two ways. One, you can go the less is more approach with not being able to really extend past what we already know of Ryan, or two, we can look at what he did as a long-term impact for Clark. So, for example, the episode Ryan in season 2 shows all of what I'm trying to say here, because it ticks every box, I think, of what you're looking for. Yes, there's a little bit of comedy, but there's a lot of pathos, a lot of emotional effect in this particular episode. And if you haven't watched this episode, I highly recommend doing so. Even if you've watched Smallville before, I recommend watching Ryan one last time because you are going to see in subsequent seasons and episodes how this impacts Clark without Clark even mentioning Ryan's name. So what does Ryan bring to the table for Clark? He brings a lot of things. He basically is a foreshadowing wisdom for Clark, because Ryan can tell things for the future. He's a telepath kid, and with all the stuff that goes on in Smallville, the ability to predict the future seems almost not uncommon, but it seems predictable. As weird as that sounds, because with all the media freaks in Smallville, they have all of these different kind of physical and intellectual capabilities, but Ryan can foresee what's going to happen, but he doesn't necessarily want to spoil everything for Clark, but he gives him a little bit. He gives him a proverbial bone, and we can even see, in Ryan's interactions with Lex, that he's a very kind person, very intelligent, but is also very wary. of Lex and very wary of people who have their own, personal motivations. So Ryan is the conscience in a way in the earlier seasons for Clark, and he essentially warns Clark about Lex, but he kind of takes it back because he thinks that does have good intentions, but he still sets the premise and sets the foundation for Clark to be very wary of Lex and to be very wary of individuals in all facets of life. So what Ryan kind of does here is he serves as an educational tool, and he's teaching Clark how to believe his own intuitions and to trust his gut. Because for as smart as Clark is, sometimes he's not the most intuitive. He wants to see the good in everybody, but kind of goes in a state of denial when somebody is almost beyond repair and beyond hope. Even though Clark derives on hope, sometimes his optimism for helping other people will blind the realism at play, and the realism at play here is the ability to understand that human beings are very flawed creatures, and Clark, being a Kryptonian, cannot fully understand that. So Ryan, through his telepathy, can really educate Clark on the flaws of human nature. But the ironic thing is that Clark is more human than everybody else, because Clark exemplifies the virtues that us human beings preach, moral goodness, and self-care, personal care for other people, trying to save everybody that you can. Those are very strong human characteristics that are not practiced by almost anybody in society. So Ryan really is the teacher and teaches Clark from the get-go that you can't save everybody, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you do want to save everybody, but if you can't save somebody beyond your own power, what can you do, right? So Clark unfortunately cannot save Ryan because Ryan's going through all of these neurological problems that ultimately cause his death. And the image of them on the hot air balloon, reminiscing but also talking about the future, is very emotional, because I think as the audience, we know that something is going to happen to Ryan. Ryan was essentially treated as a lab rat due to his capabilities. And we knew that Ryan was sick. But that hot air balloon segment was very revealing. And it showed Clark as a very sentimental individual. And Ryan, in essence, was the little brother that Clark always wanted, that Clark could mentor. But Ryan simultaneously also mentored Clark through giving him, like I said a little bit earlier, that educational experience that Clark doesn't really receive from anybody else other than John Kent. Except Ryan can kind of relate to Clark a little bit more because age-wise, there's still a gap, but it's closer than what John's age is to Clark. So they can relate off that. And Clark cannot save everybody, but at the end of the day, he does everything that he can to help everybody. And that's kind of an acceptance that Clark needs to come to terms with, is that he can't save everybody, but at the same time, it shouldn't stop him from helping whoever he can help at that physical present moment. So Ryan also teaches Clark how to cope with death, because when Clark goes back to Smallville General and to the hospital, he sees Ryan before he passes away, but then the next time he goes, the nurses and the hospital attendants, they are cleaning the bed, and they're making it, which signifies that Ryan has passed away. And the look on Clark's face shows the more human side that I think everybody knows that he has. Again, even though he's Kryptonian, so that's a paradox. But the bond that they have, I think, was one of the first, if not the first instance where Clark became more mature and Clark became the leader that we would know him to be in later seasons. And this also contributes to John Kent's death as well, because when John Kent passes away in season 5, we see how Clark copes with that death, and it does bring him down tremendously, but it also forces Clark to become even more individualistic. And Clark's a very individualistic person, or Kryptonian, but taking that death makes him the number one male going forward, and he has to make a lot of his own calls and his own judgments, especially because Martha is gone to be Senate. So these deaths ultimately make Clark the more mature young man that he becomes when he starts working at the Daily Planet, and then becomes more romantically linked with Lois. He's not as dependent on other people as before. Whereas like in the first couple seasons, you can kind of see it where Clark is kind of dependent on interaction while still trying to keep his secret close to the chest. But Ryan ultimately teaches Clark to be more independent, but also let people into his inner circle a bit more going forward. So that's what I think Ryan brings to the table because he highlights Clark's leadership qualities. And Clark ultimately learns to be an individual who can help no matter what the circumstances are, while also maintaining his own integrity. So that's what I believe Ryan brings to the table. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more videos like this soon. And maybe one day, if I can make it work from a technological perspective, we can do watch-alongs of Smallville episodes. And there is Talkville with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, so I highly recommend watching that as well. But if anybody wants, I don't mind rewatching Smallville again. I will watch it again from start to finish. And we can watch every episode together. We can kind of make it work in sync, and we can discuss it as we're going on. Let me know what you think. If that's something you would like to do, let me know, and I will be back with more. We are also trying to reach 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. So if we can get those watch hours up as well, that would be great. And then I can become a YouTube partner and give you better quality going forward. I will see you soon.